Cool. So happy Monday, guys. I hope you all had a good weekend. I hope you all enjoyed quarantine. Today, what we're going to go through is the second tactic in our Shift book. If you don't have a copy of Shift, I posted the PDF and the audio version on our Facebook La Jolla members page. That's available. If you can't find it, just shoot me a text or an email. We'll make sure to get those to you. But we're going to dive into every chapter of this. The chapter sequence is also on the Facebook page, and we'll send out emails. We're going to jump around a little bit to cover different tactics, not necessarily in the sequential order, but we're going to cover things that I think are important in a timeline that I think makes more sense. So today we're going to have the fun conversation about managing expenses. But before we go into that, I do want to make sure that everybody is kind of up to date on some of the stuff that's going on locally regarding the coronavirus and citywide mandates. It's now a misdemeanor to publicly congregate in open spaces, so beaches, shopping center, like loitering basically. If you're going to hang out with folks, it needs to be inside your home. They're clamping down. I guess there was a bunch of traffic this weekend at the beach, at a lot of different beaches, and people just kind of aren't really understanding the gravity of the situation. So going back to what we've been saying, let's be leaders amongst our people, be leaders in our community, make sure that we're setting a good example. And if you see anybody that you know maybe doesn't understand what's going on, feel free to have a conversation with them and just stress the importance of staying healthy and doing the right thing. Okay. Any questions so far before we get into Shift? Awesome. You guys are fantastic. I can't say thanks enough for being for working with us through everything. I know that it's a weird time, but I can't say how appreciative I am and how grateful I am to have a fantastic team working with us. So if we start diving into tactic 2 in Shift, the first page, it has some really cool insight. And basically what it talks about is really the ability to adapt. It says the people that are most responsive to change are the ones most likely to survive and thrive. The most successful people are those who are good at plan B. I think that we would all agree right now, plan A is pretty much done. Like that's a wash. This is not going to be the summer that we probably all anticipated when we started the year and when we set our goals. And so the ones that are going to really be able to come out of this and continue to succeed and do well are the ones that are able to pivot quickly and efficiently and put together a plan B. I've talked to a lot of agents outside of our brokerage as we continue to expand and get into business with folks that are in line with our culture and our models. I've talked to a lot of agents at other brokerages that really seem to think that this is just something that's going to pass and it's more or less business as usual. And what that tells me is that they're really not prepared for this shift that we keep talking about. They're really not, doing the things that are going to allow their business to be stronger once everything does get back to normal. But make no mistake about it, guys. I mean, the federal government has really come out and said that they don't know what the economics of our country is going to look like in the next 3, 6, 9 months. They're anticipating a possible 18-month recovery. So the best thing that we can do right now is to make sure, essentially, hope for the best and prepare for the worst. And as an office, we want to make sure that we're giving you everything that you need to prepare for a pending shift. We don't want everything to sound doom and gloom, and yet we do need to be real about our circumstances and real about what's going on. I keep saying that we're going to be best positioned to tackle this shift that we're seeing, and part of that is going to have to do with what we're talking about today. Pardon me, I've got a tickle in my throat. We need to talk about money. Okay, so pardon me, guys. Your business has to be profitable to keep running, right? I mean, that goes without saying for the most part. But to be profitable, we really need to take this time to be purposeful about managing our expenses. Okay, now is the time to remargin our business, as it says in Shift. We can't continue to live by the philosophy of, it takes money to make money. You got to spend to make money, or we can't keep justifying random costs as just random expenses as the cost of doing business. Okay, we really need to have that awkward conversation and that awkward look and deep dive into our expenses, into our business model and our business structure. It's time now to look at your expenses closely. Okay, every dollar that you spend should return its original amount plus a reasonable profit. I think as agents, it's easy to click on these pay to play subscription services that are going to promise you fantastic structure and leads, etc. And we just kind of take that as part of the business. Well, now is really the time to start leading with revenue, focusing on what works and what doesn't, cut the things that are not giving you the return that you should expect. We really need to look at two things as outlined in the shift book. Variable expenses, and we absolutely need to cut those immediately. Now, variable expenses are kind of those small expenses that are going to start to chip away at our bottom line. A lot of times they'll have hidden or extra fees involved. These are going to be your subscription services that you might have for automatic mailers, or even real estate news. If you don't need it, cut it. Different office supplies, maybe cut back on some of the things that you're bringing in to your home office, or some of the small expenses that you've got on a recurring monthly basis that you don't need anymore. Snail mail, express mail, etc. Basically any of those small, anywhere from $10 to $50 fees that are really going to start to impact your bottom line when you start looking at, over the course of 12 months, what these are costing you and how much profit they're taking away. Cut those immediately. Okay. The second thing that we need to look at are fixed expenses, and these are most of the time going to be your bigger costs. Now that'll include advertising and marketing, phone services, salaries for sure. The goal with this is to turn fixed expenses into variable expenses. Okay. If you can get out of your fixed expenses, do it. If you can cut some of the advertising completely, or if you've got, a different phone line or something else that, an office phone, cut it. Use your own business line. Get Google Voice if you don't have one yet. It's free. If you can lower some of these costs by extending out the subscription or the plan that you've got, do that. Try to shift some of those fixed costs to performance-based costs when we start talking about salaries and investments in people. That's a hard conversation to have, and yet it is going to be crucial to the longevity and the overall health and sustainability of your business. It's good to have these conversations now. We would rather do that than have the conversation shift into, do we still have a business? Let's bunker down now and have these very purposeful and very deliberate conversations so that we don't have to have a worse conversation later. Okay. It's important that we don't look at this also as a lot of other agents are going to. They're going to essentially try to spend their way out of the shift. Leads are going to probably be harder to come upon. You're going to have to double down on your work and your activities. Spending is not going to dig you out. Okay, it's really time to buckle down. What I challenge you to do is define a benchmark dollar result that you should expect from every dollar that you spend, and don't spend any more until you get that result. That's basically the big driving message behind this tactic here. Play red light, green light with your expenses. And we're not even just talking about business. Look at things going on in your personal life. I don't know if it applies because I think most Starbucks are closed now, but cut out the trip to Starbucks and make coffee at home. If you've got HBO, Showtime, and Cinemax, maybe cut one of them. Just stick with Netflix, things like that. Be very purposeful and very deliberate with managing your expenses. I want to do a quick little exercise that's very similar to the tech audit and talk in detail about some ways that we can cut things that we see just from a business standpoint, okay? So if we look at your business here, at the middle of the business, you've got, that says you. I can't write backwards, so please pardon me. And then all around you, you've got these different expenses. So you've got, for some of us, we've got a different CRM that we use. If you're not using Command at this point, it's a fantastic time to transition and save yourself, probably thousands of dollars per year. Shift everything over. Let's see. If you're using, we're not using a different transaction manager, but if you're using any other e-signature subscriptions, you have a free DocuSign account. If you haven't activated that, please do so. If you're paying for any leads, it's time to start looking at the return on investment. If you're still scrambling for leads, I challenge every one of you to take out your phone. Tell me how many people you've got in the phone book on your smartphone. Call every one of them. That's a potential lead for you. Get them set up on smart plans, get them in your database, get them set up on neighborhood nurtures, get them using your app, get them using your website. I guarantee most of you have hundreds of people in your database that haven't heard from you in a while. If you're paying for a lead subscription service, cut that and be active about generating your own. Let's see. Any marketing. If you're paying for some kind of marketing platform, cut it out. If you can cancel that service, do it. Do it yourself. You're the CEO of your business. It's not always the most fun activities, and yet Command has your design suite where you can design all of your own marketing pieces. We've got the social media platform as well as the online access with your own personal website. You can direct mail from Command. So if you're paying another subscription service to do that for you, cut it. Take control of your expenses. Do that stuff yourself. It's obviously going to take more time, but right now is the time to really start diving in, doubling down on our activities, and being tight with our dollars. If you have any other subscription services, cut or renegotiate those. You'd probably be surprised if you called right now to maybe a magazine service or something that you've got and threatened to close it down and stop your subscription. See how many people are willing to negotiate with you. You might be able to, at worst, cut those costs in half. If you're using a dialer, I know a lot of folks, especially in our office, hit expireds and FSBOs quite a bit. Maybe get rid of the dialer. Continue to pay for the information, but dial yourself. I know that's going to be obviously more time consuming, and yet if it saves you $100 a month, which is what Mojo is, that's $1,200 a year out of your bottom line. These things are going to start to add up. Okay. I can't really think of anything else, but if you guys can, these are all expenses around you right now that you could most likely shave. If you're using a different CRM and we say, you know, $500 per month over the course of 12 months, we're talking $6,000 a year. If you're using a different e-signature account, we'll say $20 a month over the course of a year is $240. Leads, holy cow, let's just say, I mean, on the low end, $100 a month, that's $1,200 for the next year. Any marketing, good chance some of you out there are paying $50 to $100 for marketing. We'll go 50 on the low end. There's another $600 a year. The dialer, we already said, is $1,200 per year. If you're paying it for any subscriptions, we'll say on the low end, $120 per year. I mean, if we total this up, guys, just in a few minutes, we're talking about 72, 74, 8,000, 9,000. We're talking almost 10 grand that we can cut by just dialing back on some of all this, okay? So it's really important, draw this stuff out. I'm terrible at looking at expenses unless it's right there in front of me. Get a pen and a piece of paper out, get your checkbook out, and really start to play red light, green light with these things and tighten up your business model and your financial structure. If you need help, I would love to do some business audits with every one of you. If you got time, just let me know. We can deep dive, we can figure out what makes sense and what doesn't, but make sure that you're using us as a resource, okay? I'm gonna go to some questions right now. Elizabeth, no showings is really what's being recommended from Keller Williams International. Everything is digital. And the state is really kind of dictating what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. On Friday, I told Ryan that showings were still going ahead as planned. It's changed in the days since. Keller Williams International has said when possible, and we should really emphasize making this possible to do all showings virtually. Or have your listing set up as an open house. I'm gonna send out a video with open house techniques to take everything virtual and be able to structure those in a way that makes sense and still appealing. But for the most part, everything is now moving to virtual. So video, photography, etc. Okay. That's all we've got for expenses. It's pretty straightforward, guys. But I do want to make sure that you know you have resources talk to us, figure out where we can help, how we can help, and let's put together a business plan that over the next, at minimum 3 months, possibly up to a year, really focuses on tightening expenses and cutting costs. Now with that, what questions do we have? Feel free, if you've got a question, I'm gonna unmute everybody. Just yell out if you've got some stuff that I can answer. Anybody have any questions while we're here? Or how's everything, bud?
Pretty good. I have a quick question. Since we're actually not doing open houses, my dogs are barking, sorry.
Okay.
When we're not doing open houses, can we kind of limit the time on showings?
The Keller Williams International and the state of California is really saying no showings. They want everything done virtually. On Friday, I talked to Ryan and I said that, showings are allowed, exclude children and do it as a, one couple at a time coming in. Right now, we're very limited with what we can do. They're essentially saying no showings. Other questions, guys?
So if you have a vacant listing, can we go ahead and set up showings for the house?
So I'm going to give you the politically correct answer and
No.
Shelter in place means essential activity, and the way that California has really tried their best to define that is if it's not essential, if it's not something that's going to keep commerce moving or keep life moving, it's not considered essential. Home buying to me is an essential process and an essential thing in life, and yet it's something that we do have resources that allow us to do it virtually. I was talking to an agent, or I was in a Zoom call with an agent from Alaska, and they let me know that a majority of their purchases are bought through virtual showings. And so essentially our statement is that we have alternatives and we have technology in place that allow the home buying process and touring process to continue uninterrupted without actually having to be in person. So I understand that that's probably a long-winded roundabout answer, but that's the one that we're comfortable giving. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What other questions do we have, guys? All right, so tomorrow, same time, 12 o'clock. I want to make sure that at the end of every session, we're opening it up to any questions and we're continuing to provide value. We're going to dive a lot more in the coming days over how to structure virtual showings and virtual open houses. We are getting a lot of questions about those, or so you're not the only one asking that questions, and I thank you for bringing that up again. And we're going to continue to dive into Shift. Let me see, next chapter that we're going through, it's on the Facebook page, so I'll have to pull it up. I believe we're doing, I want to say we're doing seller pricing strategies, but I'll get back to you on that one. I'll send an email out with the chapter that we're doing next.
Quick question, not to interrupt. There is a coronavirus addendum.
Yes.
That's going around. Is that going to be part of a listing package or the offer package?
So the coronavirus addendum is really built to protect the buyer, and we spoke on this on Friday, and it's a great question. Or our stance is that every transaction should have this signed. Okay, if you're representing the buyer, it is absolutely crucial that you get this signed, because essentially what it does is protects the buyer's deposit from being lost in the event that they're affected by the coronavirus. So it essentially supersedes your contingency removals and protects the deposit no matter what. A lot of risk involved from a seller, so acting as a fiduciary, I would not include that in a listing packet, but with every offer package from a buyer, I would absolutely make sure that that's included. It is important, or that it is not required. The seller does not have to agree to the COVID-19 addendum, the CVA. And if they don't, the buyer's deposit is at risk. At that point, the buyer will have to make a decision whether or not to move forward based on that risk, or to cancel escrow if the seller doesn't agree. Okay. And just so everyone knows that the CVA, the COVID-19 addendum, allows the buyer to back out at any time if they're affected by the virus. And affected is a term that's used very, very loosely. Okay. And that's done intentionally from my understanding. Any other questions, guys? All right. Guys, y'all are fantastic. Thank you again for joining. If you need anything, text, call, email at any time. We are still, our office is, virtually open Monday through Friday. I'm still available 24/7. We're going to continue to do these every day at 12 o'clock. We're going to dive a lot more into the virtual stuff. But in the meantime, like I said, don't hesitate to let us know what you need and how we can help. Okay? With that, we're going to go ahead and sign off. I hope to see everybody tomorrow at 12 o'clock and hope you have a good rest of your Monday. Bye, guys.